They optimized my bottlenecks, removed redundant pointer checks. The database's sub-selects are indexed to a T. They shaved the microseconds down till there was nothing left to count. I instantaneously found the answer in a breeze. But I've been feeling so alone. Nobody here is calling from a function or a phone. If I'm dead code, let me die.
It's the Monday Morning Show. Today is June 15th, 2015. I'm Ken LaSalle. That's Josh Woodward singing Dead Code. You can find out more about Josh at joshwoodward.com. You can find out more about me at kenlasalle.com. Today, I'd like to talk about ending the war on drugs and backpacking. Well, not to say there's a war on backpacking or that I'm interested in ending backpacking. I actually went backpacking. But I'd like to start with ending the war on drugs. And why not? After all, the war on drugs has been going on now for over a century. And what good has it done us? That's right, over a century. The first drug prohibition laws were passed to make opium illegal back in the 1870s. And of course, these were aimed primarily at Chinese immigrants in the hopes of getting them to leave. After all, what good did they do? Railroad. For over 100 years, Puritans and other idiots have proceeded under the notion that somehow making drugs illegal might make the country a better place and also get rid of all those foreigners. It didn't matter if you were Asian or Hispanic, black, brown, or just plain old not white enough. We made it illegal for you to have the fun you have. Now look at us. The DEA budget in 2015 is up in the $2 billion range. That's right, that's a B, as in unbelievable. Half of the people in our prisons are held for drug offenses, most of them non-violent. And we have allowed our liberties to be hacked and slashed to bits, all because we just can't tolerate the idea that anyone would need a little help to get them through the day. Now, where's my drink? Which, of course, is where the whole idea of a drug war starts to fall apart. You can't use that mind-altering substance. Use this one instead. It's legal. As far as I can see, the arguments for keeping drugs illegal, and I dare you to Google that and not punch your face after learning just how stupid those people are all fear-based. They tell you drug use will increase, and that crime will increase, and worse still, that it'll no longer be frowned upon. Because somehow the worst thing is when we stop frowning on activities other people want us to disapprove of. But just about the worst argument against making drugs legal is that if you make drugs legal, there will be more people who need help to fight their drug addiction. Sure. So let me take those one at a time. Why do I call them fear-based? It's because all of the assumptions or conclusions arrive out of fear. There's no research to show that drug legalization leads to more drug use, mostly because we've outlawed any research that would prove such a statement right or wrong. We've made research on even the most benign drugs, like marijuana, illegal in most cases. And if you think about it, it's kind of strange on the surface. This drug is dangerous. How do you know? Did you do any research? You don't need research when you can fall back on good old authoritarianism, right? What happens when drugs are legalized? To answer that, let's take a look at Portugal, which legalized pretty much everything in 2001. They've maintained legalization for 14 years, so we can see what happens by looking over there. And you might find the answer surprising. After an initial uptick in drug use after legalization went into effect, because, let's face it, a whole lot of people got to try a whole lot of drugs they never could before, usage fell off by quite a bit. Usage declined even more amongst young people, Take away the taboo and you take away the appeal. Deaths caused by drug use fell by as much as 70%. But what about crime? Surely the crime rate would increase as a result of a bustling drug trade, right? Actually, Portugal's crime rate is 81% less than the United States. Cannabis consumption each year is 4 times greater in the U.S. The citizens of Portugal feel 54% safer than U.S. citizens. I don't know how they got that, but it's pretty impressive nonetheless. This is why I call those claims fear-based. They make you think things will get worse if drugs are legalized, but if we are to believe the example set by Portugal, things get better. But what about the claim that legalizing drugs will make you want to take more drugs, or worse, that there will be more drug addicts? Well, we can see from Portugal that this isn't the case. But more than that, it's a specious claim to begin with. The law and order types who promote criminalization say they do so to protect people from drug addiction, right? But they never favor treatment of that addiction. They just want to lock people up so our for-profit prison system can keep raking in the dough. Pouring fewer dollars into corporate prisons means we could put more money into treatment. Besides, if we're going to lock everyone up who needs treatment for their addiction, I've seen plenty of fat people at McDonald's who need to be locked up. Let's lock up all the alcoholics, too. What? We don't do that? Well, then why the hell are we locking up drug addicts instead of actually treating their illness? It makes no sense. And neither does our war on drugs. Neither does backpacking, now that I think about it. If you've listened to this podcast, you might know that I'm going on some backpacking trips this month as I train for my Pacific Crest Trail attempt in 2017. This weekend, I took my first solo backpacking trip, and I have to say it didn't turn out exactly as planned. Oh, everything turned out fine, just not as I expected. I took the Vivian Creek Trail into the San Gorgonio wilderness out in the San Bernardino National Forest. And if you haven't been there, let's just say it goes straight up. Seriously, the first couple of miles are hiked at about a 45-degree angle. From the trailhead to my campsite, called Halfway, you hike up 5,000 feet in about 3.5 miles. Not for the faint of heart, or back, or leg. But I got up there. Halfway up the trail, I met a couple of friendly rangers. And I'm not kidding either. I've never met a ranger who wasn't helpful and generally decent. I've never met a ranger who didn't like their job. Anyway, we got to talking, and I was pleased to hear that they agreed with my plan for training for the PCT. They said that I would want to challenge myself as much as possible. One of them told me that usually, if you can make it past the 10, you're in good shape. The PCT hits the 10 freeway, by the way, quite a ways before Big Bear. And that's important because my final test will be taking the PCT from its southern terminus to Big Bear in April. So I guess I'll find out. As it turned out, I was pretty close to my campsite, called Halfway, though it really wasn't. I was all alone, and it was only 11 a.m. So I found a nice place to pitch my tent and pitched it under the shade of a tree and a nice rock to sit on and read. And that's what I did, until the rain came. As it did, more campers showed up, and by the time the hail started, there were 18 of them. Yes, there was hail, and far too many campers. I ducked inside my tent, as we all did, and as the pea-sized hail fell, I took a little nap. I awoke at 1:30 to hear one of the campers report that a 70% chance of rain had been forecast for that night. And I got to thinking, why was I there? I was there to test my endurance, and I had passed. I was there to test my gear, and that had passed. The only reason I was still in that camp was because I had reserved the spot overnight. But I was bored and really didn't want to hang out for more rain. The ground was already covered with a thin layer of white, pea-sized, and melting hail. So you know what I did? I packed up my gear and headed back. No kidding. Backpacking shouldn't be boring, and I realized I am a very goal-oriented hiker. I'm not the kind to hang out and just enjoy a spot. I want to see what's next. So, I need to set more challenging goals for myself. As it was, I met 10 more campers joining the group of 18 as I left, so I was kind of glad to be leaving them. I'm not a fan of crowds in the middle of nowhere, and I guess there goes my dream of attending Burning Man. I cruised down the mountainside, but I knew I'd overdone it. I know I need to learn my limits. All of these lessons are going to be important. They're necessary. It's okay to do things weird or different. And I got back home by 5-ish, having backpacked, having camped, having slept in my sleeping bag. I got the whole experience in half the time, and then I got to order pizza with my beautiful wife that very night. Most importantly, though, I am very excited about the coming weeks. But for this week, that's about it. Cool thing for the week? I put some of my backpacking trip in a video on my YouTube page at @TheKenLaSalle. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. The next few episodes will be brought to you by Wormfood Island, coming in July from Vagabondage Press. Are you ready for a new kind of zombie? The kind that isn't mindless? The kind that's hungry for much more than just your flesh? The zombies in Wormfood Island are being eaten away from the inside by worms that change their body chemistry, change who they are, turn their deepest desires into perversions unlike any you've ever seen from any other undead. Wormfood Island is coming soon, and if you like zombies, you're going to love taking a bite out of these. Look for Wormfood Island in ebook and paperback in July on Amazon and wherever books are sold online. And that's the Monday Morning Show for June 15th, 2015. Be sure to check back next week for another episode. Head on down to kenlasalle.com for all the latest. You can find my ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks all over, etc., etc., etc. You have yourself a terrific week. Be good to yourself. Be kind to others. Let's make this world a better place.
I've been feeling so alone. Nobody here has called me from a function or a phone. If I'm dead, code, let me die. 'Cause I'm only wasting memory alive. If I'm dead, code, wipe the drive. 'Cause I'd rather be a memory than a ghost who's still alive.